Hello, dear friend. This is Moment of Harmony with Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. We're honored to have you here today and to be able to share with you messages that have never been disclosed in English, and they are firsthand here to you and to everyone in the world. It's the message of the medium of Jesus, Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. For those who are not acquainted, he was considered by Chico Xavier as being the medium, the spiritist medium that was the most complete. For others, he was the medium of Jesus. Chico Xavier knew that he had direct communication with Jesus, the Holy Mary, and many other spirits. We are going to bring to you in these 21 days the messages of harmony, because there is no more important moment for all of us on the earth than this one. To talk about harmony, to feel harmony, to calibrate ourselves in greater harmony. Of course, you know that the world is shook up by several events, and it cannot be different. But this is our moment, the moment in which we gather together, heart to heart, mind to mind, to hear the lessons of the ones that are ahead of us. And in this case, it's Euripides Barsanulfo. Recently, in 2017, we were able to visit his city in Sacramento, Brazil. He was born on May 1st, 1880. And he discarnated on November 1st, 1918, due to the Spanish flu. He lived a very short life for us, 38 years, but a very productive one. He was an educator, a pharmacist, we would say a holistic pharmacist, and also a politician, a spiritist medium who changed the lives of many in Sacramento, in the region of Sacramento, and we would say in the world. He received homeopathic prescriptions mediumistically by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, who discarnated before him, 18 years before him. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes discarnated in 1900, and soon after he started prescribing homeopathic remedies and work together with Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. So whenever you think of one, you can think of the other friend. It's a teamwork effort, and they have a beautiful team working around the world. One of the most impressive works of Euripides Barsanulfo is his educational effort. His school, the Colégio Allan Kardec, which still exists thanks to the efforts of Corina Novellino and her team, and nowadays Alzira Bessa. She has been leading these efforts. Though many people may not know or even understand, we would recommend that you plan a visit to Sacramento and get to know of the works, because a tree can only be known by its fruits, and the fruits are there. So it is on us to really value what is given to us. As Emmanuel says in a message in a book that is yet to be translated, Ceifa de Luz, actually under translation, Ceifa de Luz, Harvest of Light, Emmanuel mentions that it is on us, he says, Our role in life comes from the divine, but it is on us to value it. It is on us, human beings on this earth, to value the efforts and to recognize and never take for granted the works of the men and women, the spirits who came ahead of us, solidifying a new pattern in humanity. Professor Euripides Barsanulfo, as you can see in the picture here, Professor Euripides Barsanulfo was not a spiritist at first. He was Catholic, like majority of Brazilians back in his time and still nowadays. And his uncle, close uncle, became a spiritist at a time in which spiritism was barely understood. There's a lot of myth, a lot of misconceptions, and Professor Euripides was very loyal to his religious life. So one day he turned to his uncle and said, "Uncle, I don't understand how you're betraying the teachings of Jesus by getting yourself into this so-called spiritism." His uncle very wisely turned to his nephew, Euripides Barsanulfo, and said, "I won't argue with you. Read this book first, and then we'll talk." What book was it? After Death, by Leon Denis. Of course, during the rest of that day and the whole night, Euripides Barsanulfo read the book under the candlelight. Reading that book, he opened a new horizon. It's as if a veil came off of his eyes. From there on, it's history. He embraced these teachings and understood that the promise of the Christ, the promised consoler, came back in its most logical way. No longer blind faith, but true reasoned faith. And we're being asked tonight to walk these 21 days of harmony with Euripides Barsanulfo, as he did as well, so we can achieve better serenity inside of us and spread it out outside of us. May this journey be therapeutic, my friends. May it be peaceful. May it be an opportunity for us to really feel it more than know it. As we recall the Master himself telling Nicodemus, it's not enough to know. You forgot to feel the scriptures. Tonight we're being called to feel the scriptures. Shall we? And we're going to begin it with a message that Chico Xavier himself, let me get here, Chico Xavier got this message in 1950, actually, okay, sorry. This message here is from Corina Novellino, the medium, and I'll tell you more in these 21 days. She worked closely with Euripides Barsanulfo, and she kept the legacy. She is the one that was vouched by Chico Xavier in all of the messages we're going to read. And it was published in a book that is coming about in English, Euripides, o Espírito e o Compromisso. In the second part of the book, we have the publishing of these messages that came about in 1955. Let me show to you the picture of Corina Novellino, who worked together with Euripides Barsanulfo. And as she worked with him, she brought to us this new understanding. This message is about serenity. And he says to us, these are words by Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. Beloved brothers, peace and light to your hearts. The spiritual security that the Christ transmits to the creatures that humbly seek him is the most precious treasure that humankind is given to collect in the world. Positively, there is no more favorable situation for the moral development of the individual than the certainty of the incomparable excellence of the lessons of the gospel. The great educator did not neglect even one aspect of the delicate problem of the spiritual evolution of the human individual. The luminous master of the divine love, Jesus has been supporting humankind throughout the centuries with that inexhaustible tenderness of the times in which he was on the earth. By pointing to the small problems of mental life, the Christ puts the elements of the gradual progress at the reach of the human species. By building the foundations of future happiness, human beings will be corresponding to the interest of the Master. The remembrance of the Christ must remain in your hearts as an indispensable element of life. In reality, how can one conceive life without Jesus? Removing the presence of the Christ from our hearts, we return to the condition of simple organs, whose function are reduced to works of mere mechanically driven machines, with no other objective than to aim at a body whose vitality does not go beyond the animal inferiorized by patting impulses. Yes, because the inner life, this life of the soul, must be something more than the instincts. And life of the soul must have its fundamental basis in the ideas of balance and evolution. Therefore, the spiritual recovery with the Christ is the most concrete and rightful need of humanity on earth. In this work, they must surrender themselves as the good worker who attends to the services of the day, noticing in it the most serious goals in his life. Let us praise the Christ in the service of each hour in favor of the neighbor, serving, sustaining, assisting, bringing hope to sad hearts, always vibrating in a positive way. We will then be fulfilling part of the recommendations of the beloved Master. May Jesus support us. Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. He wrote this message on April 2nd, 1955, the very day of the birthday of Chico Xavier. This message here tells us about the Christ within. Many nowadays will be amazed at such message. Some will find it very obvious. Many will open their mouth asking, why this much emphasis on the Christ? And we would say, quoting from Euripides Barsanulfo, the remembrance of the Christ must remain in your hearts as an indispensable element of life. Only Spiritism explains to us that this planet was built according to God's laws, but through the efforts of the Christ spirits, amongst them Jesus Christ. We owe to Him, not to Him as a person, but to this collective group, our opportunity of being here. And He is our tutor, Jesus Christ Himself. How can children live without parents? They don't. They need parents. How can we live without the Christ? The Christ is the living presence of God in our lives. And Professor Euripides Barsanulfo is speaking because he was a spirit who was already awake on the earth when Jesus came to the earth. When Jesus was living as an incarnate spirit, there was Professor Euripides Barsanulfo in another personality, already Christ conscious. We're talking about a spirit that has been working with the Christ since the first hour. That's why we can strongly give ourselves to His counsels and easily gravitate to fulfilling the recommendations, because He has been walking with Jesus Christ since the first hour. We are the ones who come in the last hour, but He was the one who came in the first hour. I saw myself when I was visiting the city of Sacramento, books that are carefully taken care of in almost like a museum area, and they are locked in a certain place. And we were able to see, thanks to the kindness of Euripedes, Amui, the very handwriting of Professor Euripides Barsanulfo and the psychography that he received directly from high spirits. Amongst them, the Jesus himself. So this book is probably not very much known. Euripides, the Medium of Jesus. Here we will find a recent publication of some messages, not all. Messages that he received from 1906 to 1909, and Chico Xavier read them and recommended that Corina Novellino only published it an average 50 years later, and this came about recently. Corina Novellino is discarnated, but the great niece of Euripides Barsanulfo, Alzira Bessa, is a wonderful educator, and she continues the legacy very faithfully and very anonymously, because she does not make propaganda for herself or for the school, because she really walks the talk. And I'm saying this time and again to recommend to you to visit and to pay attention to the educational proposal that was brought by the Christ through Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. For us, the educational moment tonight is an invitation to harmony. We cannot harmonize ourselves on the earth without the presence of the Christ. Your brain, my brain, is built to follow, to emulate others. We need to choose a model, but we need to make it consciously. Till now, we have models at random, according to affinity. Now, as Spiritists, we're being asked to have a model based on our reasoning. And we were given a clear message since 1857 that God granted us on earth a guide and model, Jesus Christ. Our brain mirrors whom we see. So the first therapeutic question for our harmonization is, who is your model? Of course, the Christ sends many messengers, and you can pick your choice. But how about, at least in these 21 days, harmonizing ourselves by modeling the Christ? If you say that it's too hard because the Christ is too high as a model, we'll keep the music. Okay? Thank you, friends. So, if we say that you are going to consider the proposal of the Christ a bar too high, remember what Professor Euripides is telling us of the sweetness, of the kindness of our Master. He says the spiritual security that is transmitted by the Christ is a treasure to all of us. You want harmony? I do too. We want harmony. How can we achieve it? There's no other way. I don't yet have it blossomed inside of me. It's what Brother Jacob said in the book Voltaire. I came back, a study session we had last year. He searched for his light, couldn't find it. The light is in front of us, enveloping us, blessing us, the light of the Christ, the representative of God on earth, the guide and model. And if we seek Him, that's the condition, we're going to have a treasure at hand, says Professor Euripides Barsanulfo. So, question number 1, who is your model? Can we, for 21 days, absorb the Christ as the model for now? Can we? So that's the first proposal for these 21 days. Let us embrace the Christ as our model and work on this treasure. And Professor Euripides Barsanulfo, as an educator, says to us quite clearly, the certainty of the lessons of the gospel is the best for our moral development. You know that we evolve in two directions, the intellect and the moral, the ethical moral, the virtues. How can we develop virtues? By modeling and following the guide. And Professor Euripides Barsanulfo says, the great educator did not neglect one aspect of the delicate problem of our spiritual evolution. It's not simple. If it were simple, we wouldn't be here tonight. It is complex because we're talking about several factors. We are free to choose, but then we need to reap what we are sowing. And that harvest often is not of light. But we tonight are harmonizing ourselves to make sure that the steps we're giving are more harmonious. So an exercise that we can do in the next 24 hours is the following. Since the illuminated spirits told Kardec that we are like flames, divine flames, radiating, vibrating, connected to this physical body by the spiritual body. Visualize yourself as this vibrating divine flame. And as you do visualize yourself in that way, before you say anything, before you take any action, before you write, before any feeling, look at yourself as a flame and ask, what am I emanating? What kinds of vibrations am I emanating? Are they harmonious? What am I feeling? What is the texture of these vibrations? What is the texture of my thoughts? What am I emanating? My radiating being. And as I ask that question, I will pace myself differently when I have to take action. But when I do, I'll be certain. I'll have straight conviction inside of me and the strength that I need to do what I need to do. Often, we're insecure in life because we don't assess ourselves as much as we should. So let us work on this inner assessment, because we are vibrating beings. And then we can make a choice with our children, with our spouses, with our companions in the journey at work, in the spiritist work, in any area of our lives. Let us make that assessment. And if we verify that we are not harmonious, let's not punish ourselves. We can't. We need to turn ourselves to Christ and say, please teach me a better way. Go to the inner school and ask the great educator that Professor Euripides Barsanulfo is reminding us, Jesus Christ. And ask that teacher, you know, when you used to go to school, or you still go to school, and you have a beloved teacher, one that you know that is caring and kind and compassionate, and you don't refrain from contacting, from actually being in touch. Ask the teacher, you know, I have a question. I have this doubt inside of me. How do I address it? You know what's going on in my life, Jesus. Can you please tell me how? And don't punish yourself. Embrace yourself. Validate your feelings. And give yourself an opportunity to begin anew. The great educator is not a punisher. He never vouched for any violence. On the contrary, every step of the way was non-violent, was always loving. And he says, the luminous master has been supporting us. And you often may say, I don't know, I'm alone, I'm abandoned. You are not. Tonight, rest assured, you're supported by the Master. You're supported by this great educator. But let us follow through, shall we? I will read the last sentence of this message of harmonization for us. Serving, sustaining, assisting, bringing hope to sad hearts, always vibrating in a positive way, always vibrating in a positive way, we will be fulfilling part of the recommendations. And that's a reflection for us. It's just part of it. Were you asked at any point to help anyone? Did you turn them down, or did you embrace? Are you hesitant? Because the message says to us that the only way to harmonize ourselves is to always be positive, always be at service, So tonight, let us seek the presence of the great educator and allow him, as the great doctor of our souls, to bring new harmony. Let us believe in the good, because there is nothing else but the good. What is not the good doesn't exist. Let us strengthen the good, and it shall conquer the earth. Let us meditate and stay assured that we're never alone. We are supported at each breath by the light, the luminous light of the divine love that comes from Jesus Christ. That's our moment of harmony today, my friends. And tomorrow we will be back, God willing, with another moment of harmony with Professor Euripides Barsanulfo.